So what? Welcome to the channel, welcome to Dutaki Travels. I am just heading down to this little spot for a bit of lunch, and I thought I'd create this video to share some of the things that I learned on this recent trip to Samoa, and some practical tips, and also just some reflections on some of the comments that people have been sharing. There have been a couple of ones that have been a little bit controversial, I think, but I thought I'd just share my perspective on it. And also just some questions that people have been asking, which I thought could be useful for me to address in one video. Been trying to answer all these questions in separate videos, but I thought it might be useful just to create a single video just to share these tips. So I actually just stopped by at a little place called Evelina's Polynesian food, and I got some food there for lunch. And one of the things that I got was this turkey tail, which is going to be the first time I am trying turkey tail. Actually, this is the turkey tail. This is keke siomani. So we have some keke mamoe, some, I think this is egg foo young, and some sort of like potato curry. I don't know what they call these in Samoan, but this is keke site in Tongan, and a little drink to cleanse the palate. But yeah, anyway, so firstly I just want to say thank you to everyone for the comments, and yeah, just seeing all the love and the support in the comments and all the videos that I've been sharing from Samoa. People sharing that they saw their village or their house or whatever it is, their grandparents, grandmother's cake shop, etc. So appreciate all the love, all the support. And yeah, I thought that it might be useful just to share some practical tips of what I learned for anyone wanting to travel to Samoa. If you're planning to go, this might be useful for you, and then I can share just some further reflections of my own from what I observed during the trip. Okay, so the first thing, if you have foreign currency and you're planning to exchange it, I was looking around for different ways to exchange money in Samoa or before going to Samoa, and one idea that I had was to exchange it at the airport in New Zealand before going, or maybe at one of the banks. But I did a bit of research, and apparently the best place to exchange money in Samoa is at the airport in Samoa. So you have a few different options there. Western Union, I think there's like number one exchange or something. There's a few different places there you can exchange money at the airport even before you head out, and I must say the rate was pretty good. I had a bunch of Fijian dollars and some US currency, and I'll share the amount, the actual receipt that I took a photo of what I received, which ended up being about 1900 tala. I didn't spend all of that money. Gave quite a bit of it away, like giving extra to people when I paid at attractions and whatnot, or if I was just buying food, or if I saw kids hanging out outside the shop, I'll give them some money as well. So everyone that I talked to, they said, when I was in Samoa, they said exchange at the airport is the best place to go. What's been cool about editing all this footage when I got back to New Zealand is that I was reliving the experience of being in Samoa, and then again, when people were commenting, just sharing either knowledge on the sites that I went to, or just commenting on the villages that they saw that belonged to their parents or their family, again, it allowed me to relive the feeling of being in Samoa. So that was really cool. So if you're planning to do a trip to Savaii, here's some very practical tips for you. It seems like if you're just going on the ferry as a passenger, then you could almost get on the ferry on the day. Maybe not on the hour that it leaves, but maybe the next ferry you'll be able to get on. And so if you're planning to take a car from Upolu over to Savaii, then you'll need to book your ticket well ahead of time. And when I was in New Zealand preparing to go to Samoa, I actually called the number for the Samoa Shipping Company, Western Samoa Shipping Company, And for some reason the phone number wasn't working when I was in New Zealand, but when I got to Samoa, it worked. And when on the day that I arrived, I wanted to travel to Savaii the next day. I wanted to hire a car and take it on the ferry the next day. But then when I called the day that I arrived, they were like, no, we're booked out till Thursday. I arrived on a Monday, they were booked out till Thursday. And then on Tuesday, I drove down to the shipping company and I went to book a ticket down there, and they were like, no, we're booked out till Friday, sorry. And then the girls at the shipping office in Apia on Vaisingano area told me that you can go on standby. And so if you want to go on standby, that means that you have to go early in the morning, wait to see if there's any cancellations or no-shows to the ferry for the hour that the ferry departs on the day, and then you might be able to get squeezed onto the ferry. So that's what happened to me. So I traveled to Muliwhenua Wharf at 4 a.m. or arrived at 4 a.m. in the morning. It was like an hour drive from where I was in Te Papata. Arrived at 4 in the morning, and then waited for the 6 a.m. departure. That was filled up. That was filled up with people who were already there before me, to go waiting on standby to go on the ferry. Sorry, the 6 a.m. got filled up by people who had already booked their tickets, and then some of the people on standby. I missed the 6 a.m. departure. There was just too many people on standby, and so we have a whole lot of cars, vehicles here waiting. The 8 a.m. ship got filled up with the same thing. Well, they're closing up the the ramp, so that's the 8 o'clock ship departing. No more cars on the 8 o'clock ship, which means we're gonna have to wait here till 10 o'clock. And then I had to wait till 12 because there was a 10 a.m. ferry, but that was passenger only. So I waited till 12 a.m., the 12 p.m. ferry, and I was lucky to get on. I want to speak a little bit more about the actual video, the thinking around how I edited that video and how I shot it, but I'll speak about that later on. But yeah, that's some practical tips on going to Savaii. So there were a lot of comments of people saying, you know, you're so patient, yada yada yada, and maybe they didn't understand that actually I was waiting there with everyone else. There were people, I was the last one to get on the 12 p.m. ferry, and there was a car who had just arrived after me at 4 in the morning, and they didn't get on the 12 p.m. ferry, so they had to wait for like a 2 p.m. ferry, or I don't know, who knows if they even got on, but yeah, they had to wait even longer. So I was lucky to get on the 12 p.m. ferry. Speaking of cars, here's a very practical tip. If you get a car in Samoa, whether it's for rental, whether it's a rental car or you're borrowing it from a friend or family or whatever, always check that you have the tools in the back of the car to change the tire, and also that you have a spare tire. Otherwise, you'll experience what I experienced, which is, well, I'll tell you after I have a little bite into this turkey tail. This is my first time trying turkey tail. Wow. Wow, they're very fatty, but very tender. Reminds me of lamb. So if you saw the video, you'll know this is what happened with me. Driving back to my accommodation, pulled over on the side of the road, discovered that I had a flat tire, and I must have spent at least 20 to 30 minutes trying to wave down people to help me to change my tire, because when I went to look at the back to get the tools out to change the tire myself, the tools weren't there, they were missing. Now, so you got to make sure that the tools are in there. I think there is a high chance that someone will pull over to help you out. Like, it took me at least 20 to 30 minutes to actually have someone come over and help me. But I think there is a high chance people will come over. But I mean, during that time, I was waving down multiple people to stop me, but you know, whatever, they would have been busy, or they probably weren't able to help out, whatever the reason was. But here's the interesting thing. The guy who eventually came to help me out, Ben from Juliana Rentals, I tried to offer him money and he refused my money, and I felt so bad. I was like, bro, I could have been stuck there all night.
No, it's not. To be honest, no.
No, please.
Please.
I probably wouldn't have been stuck there all night, but there's a possibility that I would have been stuck there all night. And he refused my money, so then, you know, I made him a whangwhangu and took it to Juliana Rentals and dropped it at the office. But here's the most interesting thing, because I posted this video on another social media platform and blew up, and everybody was commenting, and everybody's still commenting on that video, and they're like, that guy, Ben, is from one of the richest families in Samoa. He's from the Aliki family, apparently, and they own multiple things. This is where we insert Jizza, the guy from Smiley Boys, the owner of everything. But this guy comes from a family who seem to be the owner of everything, of many things in Samoa. Banks and, I don't know, property, I don't know. People are constantly naming banks. So he comes from a very wealthy family. Obviously didn't need to stop to help me out, but I think the fact that he stopped to help me out is a reflection of his character. And he said a really interesting thing to me when I was trying to offer him the money. He was like, no. See, if I accepted the money, it would defeat the purpose of me turning around to come help you out. Something to that effect.
It's a waste of time for me coming back if you're going to pay me. No.
So to then show that, you know, he had pure intentions of wanting to help me out. It wasn't for money, it wasn't for anything else. Like, he didn't know that I was filming. I said to him, oh, I'm just capturing this, I document my travels, yada yada yada, and he was okay with it. So shout out to Ben from Juliana Rentals. Yeah, can't thank him enough. That was very kind and very generous of him to give us time up to come help me out. This turkey tail's got quite a bit of meat on it. Okay, here's another practical tip. Whenever visiting any tourist attraction in Samoa, it is most likely that you have to pay a bit of money to enter the attraction. And so it's really handy to have a little bit of spare cash with you, like 10, 20 tala, 5 tala. You can pay for the different attractions that you visit. From the experience, some people had change and they were able to break the money that I gave them to give me some change back, and some didn't. In most cases, I gave a little bit extra to the people who I was paying anyway. With some of the sites, some sites it's clear who and where you're going to pay. Like the Dorsal Trench, they have a little shop up the front before you enter the site, and there's a place there to pay the person before you go in. And in other places that I went to, it's not clear who and where to pay. So when I was at the Te Seo Lupo in Napu, and then also the Dwarf Cave in Bahia in Savaii, it wasn't clear where you would go to pay for to access the sites. And there's been a bit of commentary around those two sites specifically when I paid to visit those sites, but I'll share some reflections on those a little bit later on. So those are some of the practical tips. There are heaps of other things to take into consideration, but you can find lots of information on practical things before visiting Samoa online, and you just need to do a little bit of research. But those are just some of the things that I wanted to share in this video. Now I wanted to share some reflections, but before that, here's a little keke siamangi. That's real good. Now I want to share some reflections. One of the most common comments that came through in all the videos was about the cleanliness of Samoa. And it's true, everywhere that I went, it was so beautiful, clean, and I have some observations or reflections that I want to share about what I saw throughout my time there. So in the evenings when I was driving around, or late afternoon evenings, you would see groups of people, children, adults, or even just individual households with like a couple of the kids who probably live in that house. But all these different people would be cleaning. Like there was this culture of, I feel like service, a culture of service, where cleanliness is a byproduct of that, where in the evenings there's sort of like this expectation or this routine where people will be cleaning up. So then like one time in Upolu, in Savaii, I was driving by a village, can't remember the name of the village. As I was approaching the village, I saw these kids at the end of a field near the road just playing I thought they were playing, and then when I got closer, I realized they were pulling out weeds. They were like these little 6, 7-year-old kids, like 5 or 6 or 7 of them, hanging around. Because I was like, yeah, it's natural that they'll be out playing, but they looked like they were pulling out weeds, cleaning the edge of the field. And like, that's not just a random thing kids would just do. Like, there would have been some sort of expectation or command for them to, yeah, hey kids, go clean. I don't know. That's what I'm assuming. And then even in the mornings when I was driving through the back roads in Upolu on the way to Potasi, you saw like a group of men dressed up with their lava and shirt, and they looked like they were kind of color coordinated as well. So maybe it was like a specific group, or maybe they were from a specific village, but they were all just going around cleaning up. A couple of them had baskets, hats, and then yeah, just picking up rubbish off the side of the road. And then in the evenings, most places you drive, you'll see like 1 or 2 kids with in Tonga we call it taufare, but one of those coconut brooms, sweeping and cleaning the yard and whatnot. So yeah, I feel like this culture of service, or this, I call it service, but there might be another way to describe it, is one of the key things that probably contributes to the cleanliness of Samoa. And I imagine that, like, I've heard stories of how, you know, you have to have pride in your house because the house is a reflection of the village itself, and there's obviously the strong sense of pride in your village. Yeah, and so that's cool. That's cool that like it's manifests itself in cleanliness and the beauty of the villages of Samoa. Now, obviously I'm Tongan. I was in Tonga recently, and a lot of the people on this channel are probably Tongan as well. And I saw a few comments where people were like, man, Tonga's just ugly. Tonga's ugly. I don't know where those comments come from. Like, I don't know if that these people who are sharing these comments have been to Tonga recently. I was there a few months ago, and I would say that the cleanliness of Tonga is similar. I don't know if we have the same, I can't speak on the culture of like service of like groups of people coming together and like specifically making an effort to clean up at a specific time of day. I didn't observe that in Tonga, but someone else can comment on that who lives in Tonga, and that shows my ignorance about the subject. And that's, I'm not trying to like speak down on Tonga. It's just what I didn't observe that in Tonga during the short period of time that I was there. But Tonga is clean. Like, Tonga is clean. And you'll see in the videos, the vlogs that I took there from June, it's clean. Like, it's not like it's full of litter and rubbish everywhere. So yeah, I just wanted to counter this like attitude of like looking down on our own country when you see someone else like in the islands, another island is beautiful. And to be honest, Samoa has a different beauty as well. Like, it's just more colorful and yeah, more vibrant because of the way the houses and the village is painted, the walls and fences and whatnot. Like, it's just more colorful. They use a lot of colorful paints everywhere, and it kind of makes the beauty of Samoa pop a little bit more in a different way. But Tonga is still beautiful in its own way, and you'll see that the physical beauty of it and the cleanliness of it through the vlogs that I took. But then there's actually a different spirit to Tonga as well, and that's me being biased because I'm Tongan. But when you're a Tongan in Tonga, yeah, the spirit is different. Just like if you're a Samoan in Samoa, like the spirit is also different. And I spoke to a Romanian couple when I was in Savaii, when I was staying in the beach villas in Manasseh, and there was a Romanian couple who had been cruising around the Pacific. They had been to what's it called, Vanuatu, to Fiji, Tuvalu, Tonga, and then they were currently touring Samoa. Bro on the dirt bike. And the female partner, she mentioned that Tonga was one of her favorite places she'd been at. They'd been in Samoa for several days now, and I was asking her why is Tonga one of your favorite places, and she couldn't really describe it. But they went to Tonga to swim with the whales, and they couldn't swim with the whales because the weather just wasn't good. Went out on the boat, couldn't find any whales. went a second day, couldn't find any. So like the objective that they went for wasn't achieved, which was to swim with whales. And you'd think not being able to swim with whales would put a downer on your trip, but still the partner said that bro, I just realized I made a mess of myself. But still the partner said that she liked Tonga as one of it, like she could go live in Tonga. She mentioned Tonga and Tuvalu. So that was really interesting. And I was like, what about Samoa? She was like, yeah, Samoa's beautiful, but there's something about Tonga that's different that resonated with her specifically. So that's interesting. So yeah, that's a little bit on the cleanliness, but you know, that's my own observations. I'm really curious for any Samoans out there, especially the ones who live in Samoa or who spent a lot of time in Samoa, if they can comment on about my observations on this culture of service and culture of cleaning, and whether that's accurate or what else contributes to the cleanliness of Samoa, because it's true, it's really clean and beautiful. It's not like I didn't see rubbish in different places, but for the most part it's beautiful. I think it's time to get into the nitty-gritty of this video. When I went to the TSA Lupa in Sanapu, when I went to Dwarf's Cave in Paia, there were a couple of experiences of being asked for money. And even when I went to Vavau Beach, but that was expected. Vavau Beach, I knew what the price of Vavau Beach was, and I made a comment on it on the way down into the beach. But when I went to the Dwarf's Cave, there's an example of the place where I didn't know where or who to pay. And as I'm driving up, you'll see in the video, Mani, one of the locals, pulls me over and he's like, oh, you need someone to come with you down to the cave, a caveman, and I'm one of them. And so I'm like, yeah, all good. Anyway, I'm charged 30 tala for the trip to the cave, and I know some of the comments were talking about how Mani should have had a torch. That wasn't worth the experience because he only went in for a short time. Now I just want to say, Mani was unprepared for someone to come visit the cave, and I was also just as unprepared. I didn't have the right shoes on, I didn't have a proper torch, I just used my phone light. So when we went into the cave, I realized immediately, I was like, oh, we're not going to be here long, because I'm just like fumbling over my own feet, struggling to walk with my shoes, with the slides that I had on. And the light that we had from my phone obviously wasn't enough, like it was super dark when we got in there. And so I was like, yeah, we don't have to go too far. Like he was kind of trying to lead me on further, or just as far as I wanted to. And I was like, no, Mani, this is all good, this is enough. We can turn back around now, like it's just going to be the same experience because we don't have appropriate tools. So he was underprepared, I was underprepared. So then the experience of visiting Dwarf's Cave wasn't as good as it could have been. Like we had proper torches and I had proper shoes and could have carried on. Obviously there was a limitation in the translation, like he wasn't able to speak English that well, so he wasn't able to explain the site in depth. And so that also contributes to the experience as well, of like not really having a clear understanding of like the cave, its purpose, and any other stories associated with it. But on the way back, I suggested to him, because I saw him carrying the koko, and I asked him what's in the bucket. Sorry, I saw him carrying a bucket, I asked him what's in it, and he was like, koko. And so I said to him, oh, is your bucket full up? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, let's go get some more koko. We can just chuck it in the car and then you can take it back with you to the house. Because I wanted to have the experience of going in and just helping him in the, just try harvest some more koko. To me, that experience was more meaningful than going into the cave. Yeah, it's cool that the cave has, you know, a lot of history and stories associated with it. But as superficial as it was to just go into the bush for like 5-10 minutes to pick a couple of koko plants, fruits, to me that was more meaningful, because it gave me a small taste of an authentic, you know, Samoan experience of just being in the uta. I don't know, uta is a Samoan word, that's what we call the bush in Tongan Uta where we can, you know, harvest. And so I just wanted to have that short experience. And to me, they made up more than the 30 tala of going to Dwarf's Cave, because it was a taste of authenticity, which you can't really pay for that, to be honest. There's you can't put a price on having an authentic, despite how, you know, superficial that experience was. Like, I'm not going to go around bragging, yeah man, I was working in the bush in Samoa. But, you know, you get a taste of it, like what to look for, how to pick it, which obviously is quite simple and straightforward after you experience it, but I wouldn't have known that. And so it's cool to experience that with money. And then even just like sort of talking with him in the bush, and then when he was like towards the end of the coming out of the bush, he was like Uma, and I remembered, oh, Uma is like finish, and I was like, oh, finish, and that's why I was like, oh, Aussie. Uma finish? Finish, okay. In Tonga we say Aussie.
Aussie.
Oh yeah, Uma is Aussie in Tonga.
Oh. Uma, Aussie.
Aussie, here. Finish.
Finish, yeah. Aussie. Tamasi.
Tamasi, iyo.
Tamasi.
Ai.
Ta. Tene.
Tahine.
Tahine.
Yeah.
Hello, Tahine.
Hello, Tahine.
Hello, Tamasi.
Hello, Tamasi, here. Yeah, to me that's more meaningful than, so then, you know, I gave him 50 tala at the end of the trip because I actually was in a state of like, I was quite apologetic because I didn't realize that I was supposed to like knock on the house at the start, and like I said, it's not obvious who or where to pay, but I didn't know you had to knock on the house at the start of the road before driving up to Dwarf's Cave. And so I was kind of apologetic because I felt like I was overstepping my boundary by just boxing it, driving up the road without even like checking in on anything. That extra payment was also like a small gesture of like my apology for just boxing it, but also like my appreciation of just having that interaction with them going into the bush to harvest some koko. I thought that was worth more than the 30 tala that I would have paid just for the cave. So I was happy to give a bit more. And let's think about it. 30 tala in New Zealand dollars is probably about, I don't know, like 18 tala. Or at least that would have been the exchange rate at the airport. It would have been about 18 tala. So again, it's not that much. So that's in Paia. And then in Sanapu, when I went to the TSL Lupa again, I saw like comments around like, oh, yeah, Samoans are money hungry, and I'm Samoan myself, so like this shouldn't be happening, and they shouldn't treat foreigners this way. And I can appreciate like the sentiment because it was a very brief sort of interaction going into to the TSL Lupa, but I also disagree. And so I was actually discussing the situation with my wife, who doesn't have any Polynesian heritage. Her only connection to the islands is through me, and we were talking about the price that I was charged for going to the TSL Lupa, which was 30 tala, and her position was like, you know, based on the interaction that she saw, which was a lack of knowledge, a lack of information, a lack of understanding about the purpose and whatnot, it's not worth that much to pay 30 tala for a tourist attraction. And I say to her, you know, I imagine a lot of tourists who come to Samoa are probably mostly looking for either rest and recovery, relaxation, or adventure. And coming to a place like this would feel quite disappointing if you're looking for either of those two things, adventure or rest and recovery. And so it would feel like it's not worth the 30 tala. Now, the difference between that kind of expectation going on a holiday to Samoa and my stance is that I'm interested in culture and history. And yes, there was a lack of information when I went to the Tiaseo Lupe. But even the fact that there was a Tiaseo Lupe there, I already know that there's a connection between that and Tonga. So I already have a cultural connection to Atia through, you know, knowing that we have that in Tonga. And then the other thing is like knowing that this is ancient history here. I don't need to know how long ago this was built. Like, yes, it would be nice to have as much information as possible. But you already get the sense, like you saw the big mound of rocks and then the pathway heading up to it and then the other sort of structures, wall structures around it. Like there would have needed to be some sort of centralized authority or some like manpower being organized to bring all this together. You could look at it and just be like, that's a rubble of rocks. Yeah, that's a rubble of rocks, but how do you organize a rubble of rocks to be structured like that without having like coordination, some sort of like, yeah, leadership to bring all that together? So then, obviously this is just me speculating, but even with the lack of information, one of the more important things for me was just being there on the land, like just being there with the land, having some sort of interaction with it, seeing it, and that was enough for me to be like, that was worth more than the 30 tala that I was being charged. I gave him a little bit more, again, because of my own personal appreciation of like culture and history and understanding a little bit of the significance of the area and not really fully understanding it, but like just really appreciating the significance of the historical and probably even spiritual significance of the area. So these comments around like scamming and whatnot, I can appreciate that from the point of view of someone who might be looking for something more. But for someone like myself who's interested in culture and history, you might not need extra information just to have a sense of like appreciation for the history, the area, the land and whatnot. So I don't know, that's just my stance on it anyway. So yeah, that's just some reflections on some of the comments around like scamming and being money hungry and whatnot. Like I disagree, especially in those two situations, because again, like another example is I went to the Savaii in Tufutafoi village. Tufutafoi/Faleolupo, and the charge there was 30 tala. I gave the boys 50 because again, this is like a significant historical location, and I appreciated the fact that like I would have been there without. Actually, let me explain the situation there. So I was driving towards the location, Savaii, because I saw this location on Google Maps saying an ancient mound. And as I was driving there, a truck was driving in the opposite direction. These boys were picking up coconuts off the side of the road, just chucking into the back of the truck. And then they saw me, and then we slowed down as we came to cross paths. And they're like, "Oh, where are you going?" And I was like, "Oh, just to the ancient mound." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll come show you around. We can take you." And I was like, "Okay, sweet, come, I'll meet you there." Cruise, we get there, and I realized that without them, I wouldn't have had any explanation or knowledge, even a limited amount of knowledge that they were sharing of the area. Now I appreciate in that video, which was my last day in Savaii, somebody in the comments expanded a little bit more on the significance of the location, which is crazy how significant their location is. Those boys shared a little bit. There was enough for me to be like, bro, this place is amazing. This is probably one of my favorite places I visited in Savaii, as like a place of cultural and historical significance. I think probably all places there have some level of cultural and historical significance, but that area, Savaii, like speaks to some of the ancient history of the area, which was just amazing. Anyway, somebody expanded on it a little bit more in the comments, and I appreciate that. But yeah, again, like you didn't need a whole lot of information to like get a sense of the area, but what the boys provided was a bit of context. Yeah, and obviously they were limited in their ability to go deep with the explanations because of their limitation of their English, but it was all good. I'm just glad that they were there to show me around and show me the different spots. Otherwise, I wouldn't have realized that the actual star mound was beyond the bush, and we weren't able to get there. And so yeah, someone who has an interest in culture and history may disagree with me. That's all good. That's just my take. And so let me expand a little bit more on this idea of like the sort of sense of gratitude and generosity, the sense of gratitude that I had traveling around the place, because I recognize that obviously I'm on foreign land. This is not my homeland. I do have Samoan heritage 7 generations up. I have an ancestor who came from the Savaii district in Upolu, and then there is a cemetery in my father's island in Ha'ano in Ha'apai, and that cemetery is called Aleipata, which might be a reference to Aleipata district in Upolu, which might speak to more Samoan ancestry. But the point is, like, I'm not going around thinking, yeah, I'm Samoan, this is my land. Like, even though I have this ancestry, I recognize I'm on foreign land. Like, so this is foreign land to me, being in Samoa. So I move with the sense of sort of, I guess, humility, and like understanding that like I need to try and maintain the relationship with the people and the land. So when people do ask for money, I'm not going to kick up a fuss and argument unless I felt like it was an extreme level of injustice, that I'm paying extreme amounts for an unfair experience, or I felt like I was in danger. Then I'd speak up on it. But for the most part, yeah, actually the whole time I was there, I was like just going with the flow. So when people ask for something, and I thought everything that was being asked for was reasonable, I just went with it. And again, like trying to think about how I conduct myself in a foreign land to like maintain va with the land and the people. Because I did mention that at some during my time in Samoa, I never felt like I was in danger. I never felt like there were any sort of negative experiences. When I was in Vavau Beach, I did feel a sense of eeriness, and then I come to find out in the comments, or I don't know if it's people in the comments were saying, oh, there's an aitu that, you know, hangs around somewhere around there in Vavau Beach. And I was like, I don't know if that's what I was feeling. Maybe it was my ancestors, if I had ancestors from the area who were buried in the Aleipata cemetery in Ha'ano. But there was a sense of eeriness, and my dad was saying he could sense it through the video when he was watching. But yeah, maintaining that va, that relationship with the land and the people, meant that I'm just like happy to go with the flow of whatever was being like asked of me. Like, if that doesn't mean that I wouldn't speak up on things, but it was more likely that I'd oblige if people were like, oh yeah, you got to do this, or you got to pay this, or you got to go there. Like, all good, I'll do whatever I need to do, because I'm just going with the flow. And that meant I had a great time in Samoa. Now, I wanted to share very briefly, this is for anyone who edits videos or is interested in a bit of artistic expression through movies and whatnot. I wanted to speak on the first impressions of Savaii video, because that video for some reason has blown up and it's got quite a bit of views. It's had the most views of all the videos in Samoa, and I find that really interesting because that video starts off really slow, and that's all very intentional. Like, I don't get onto the ferry, and I actually don't arrive in Savaii till I don't know, maybe like 25 minutes into the video, I can't remember. But that first 20-25 minutes of the video is literally me just hanging out at Mulifonua Wharf. Like I mentioned before, I arrived there at 4 AM and ended up getting on the ferry at 12 PM, and I figured while I'm there, I might as well capture the feeling of just waiting. Like, this is a common experience for anyone catching the ferry, and especially for anyone on standby. So if anyone has ever been on standby trying to get on the car onto the ferry and Mulifonua Wharf, I feel like that video, the intention of the first half of the video tries to capture the feeling of just being on standby. So then you see these like just long shots, and then slow motion shots and then shots of just people sitting around waiting. You see the shots of the environment, coconut trees, the bus, trying to capture that sort of feeling. Like these are the imagery, this is the imagery and the sounds that you would experience if you were at Mulifanoa Wharf on standby waiting to get in the car. So I was trying to portray this feeling of waiting, and maybe not necessarily of impatience, because like this is the reality of time in the Pacific as well. Like things feel a lot slower. And then when you're on standby, when you're waiting for like 7 hours to get on the ferry, things are even more slower. So then, yeah, artistically I was trying to like portray this feeling of just waiting and things being slow, and just what happens there is that it builds up this tension, the suspension, to see when am I actually going to get on the ferry. And there's a really funny comment in that video where someone was like, I literally cheered when you got onto the ferry. And I think that person probably felt exactly what I was trying to portray, which was this feeling of waiting, the suspension that builds of like, when's he going to get on? And the funny thing is, when I did get onto the ferry, the guy who was guiding me into the ferry was like, you know, yeah, come in, oh, back up, oh yeah, left, right. And then eventually he was like, oh.
So not enough space.
Not enough space? Your car doesn't fit. And immediately this whole go with the flow kind of attitude kicked in, and I'm like, nah, all good, bro, all good. I'll jump on the next ferry, 2 p.m. or whatever it is. Yep. It's okay, I'll wait for 2 o'clock. No worries, it's okay.
It's okay.
All good, let me back up. As soon as I try to back out, I look behind me and the ferry ramp is closing, and that's when the tension broke in me, or like that sort of suspension was released. Oh, you're joking. Oh my gosh, last one on. Thank God we're off to Savaii now. Because I was like, the ramp is, I'm going to Savaii, and I just started cracking up, and you feel, I don't know if you feel that, but like there's so much relief in me from, you know, that joke itself. Like if the guy didn't joke, it would have been just a slow release of like, just being like, oh yes, I'm on the ferry now, okay, that's great. But yeah, he cracked me up with that joke, and I just had this relief. Anyway, that was me trying to be a little bit more artistic with the approach to capturing and documenting and vlogging. And then also when I got onto the island, like I mounted this camera on the top of the car, and that was the first time I experimented with that. Oh, actually it wasn't, it was on the bonnet of the car, and that was the first time experimenting with it, and I was a little bit like scared, because I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be a good thing or not. I hope the camera doesn't fall off. But what you get is the experience of seeing Savaii, literally seeing Savaii for the first time along with me through my eyes. So what you saw is exactly what I saw. So again, like this sort of artistic expression of being like, how can I show you guys exactly what I'm seeing when I'm seeing it for the first time? So I was really happy with that video, even though it's such a long video, and there's really not a lot happening in that video in terms of like action or like, yeah, I stopped by at the at the village, Eva village, for barbecue. Bro, those pies were amazing. They should sell those. Those are amazing, those pies. So shout out to their family with the barbecue, and then just stopping by on the road and eating the barbecue. Like there wasn't nothing too crazy happening there. Obviously just documenting what I was seeing, driving by the villages and whatnot. And that really was the intention. Like that was a star of the show, the observing the beauty of Savaii. So yeah, again, that was a cool little, I really enjoyed editing that video. That's one of my favorite things, editing the videos, coming back and just like reliving the experiences through the edit. Okay, I'm going to finish up the video with this last common question that people were asking throughout all the videos, which is, what gear do I use? So I use an Osmo Pocket 3, DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which is what this is being filmed on. Some of the accessories that I use on that is an ND filter, and that helps to just capture some of the colors a little bit better. I shoot in D-Log, which means that I can color grade it how I want. I have a magnetic mount which I use with the camera that allows me to capture some of the side footages when I'm coming back from Savaii off the ferry, and you have the camera on the side of the door. Now no one commented on it in the video, but there's a video of me at the end of the whangwhango making workshop where I'm driving down Cross Island Road and the camera falls off the car. This is a $1,000 camera, and I'm just magnetically putting it on the side of the car, and then next minute it falls off and rolls on the ground, and very luckily it didn't break. I had a little joystick thing fall off, but otherwise it's still fine. I was expecting it to be broken, and that's the end of my vlogging with this camera. But anyway, I don't recommend doing that, but like if you want to try to get an interesting shot, then take a risk, and that's what I did and paid the price, and luckily nothing's broken. But that magnetic mount is also what allowed me to mount the camera on top of the car, on the bonnet, etc. Get those night shots in Savaii. So yeah. The other camera that I use is a DJI Action 4. Some of the accessories that I use with that is a tripod, a little mini tripod. I use a water case. I don't recommend using a water case for the camera, for the Osmo, for the DJI Action camera, just because of the audio. Like if you're vlogging, you want to talk to the camera, and that case just blocks out the audio. Like the quality of audio just dies once you put the case on. So the camera can film underwater without the case. The case just helps to make the camera float, so if it releases from your hand, then it'll float to the surface. But if you're in a shallow area and you're just filming in the water, then you don't need the case. Now the other thing that I used while I was in during this series of vlogs is mics. I had DJI mic 2s which I connected to myself while the camera was either on the car, or yeah, if I was taking shots from a distance, I'd be talking to the camera. So I used the DJI mic 2 for audio, and yeah, that's all the camera gear that I had. I have other things that I'd be happy to talk about in terms of like vlogging and capturing and like data storage and all that, but don't need to share in this video. If you're keen to know a little bit more about that, I'm happy to share what I do in terms of data storage and all that. But yeah, anyway, that'll do it for this video on some of the things that I learned from this trip to Samoa. I don't know when I'll be back to Samoa. I hope it's sooner than later. I really enjoyed this trip. I'm hoping that next time I'll be able to come with my family, not just a solo trip. And yeah, thank you to everyone who I met along the way. And yeah, I look forward to coming back soon to beautiful Samoa. Whawhitai tele lava. Thank you for watching. Fasui fort.